Hey, Devin.
Hello, long time no see.
Hi. Yeah, same. Good to see you.
You too. How's school?
Going pretty good. Yeah, I'm in the home stretch. So
Nice. You just starting year two?
It's a 1-year program that's kind of go at your own pace. So I'm actually like hoping to finish up by December. So I'll be done just a little bit more than a year.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Are you planning on moving back this way?
Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah, actually, I'm kind of hoping, remote work has been working out fairly well. So I was thinking of moving up to, I don't know, maybe the Bay Area and just kind of commuting in when need be, but maybe not moving like directly back to Sonoma County. It's been kind of nice to try it out, try out just,
Different places.
Yeah.
Cool.
I know you and I both love Sonoma. I think we've both been there for a while. So it's like, it's hard not to just come straight back. But I was like, it's probably a good idea to just, try a couple other things out.
Yeah,
It's easy.
it's not going anywhere. It'll be here.
Yeah.
We'll always welcome you back. So
Thanks.
as long as you can keep running this forest working group and stay with the RCD.
Just small clause in the agreement, but yes. Morning, Dee.
Morning, y'all.
Morning.
With my mouth full, sorry.
No worries. And Devin, who is with you?
This is Sophia. We're very happy. She started a couple days ago. She's our new Grizzly Corps fellow for the year. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Sophia. I just graduated from Sonoma State in May, and now I'm serving at Pepperwood. So I have a bit of working forestry experience with local nonprofits, but this will be my first full-time gig doing forestry work.
Awesome. Great. Good to have you. Grizzly Corps is a great program. I hope you enjoy it a lot.
That's up to us to make sure she doesn't run away from this field.
Yeah, you have to make a really good impression, Devin. No pressure.
Yeah, and we've had Michaela Freed as more on the research side of things last year. So she's staying again. So we have 2 Grizzly Corps folks this year. So
oh, great. Yeah, isn't Michaela working with Una at the North Coast Resource Conservation
Partnership.
Or I guess maybe their conservation works now. They renamed themselves.
Oh, they renamed themselves. Okay, right.
I think she did that prior before she was.
Oh.
Yeah, so she's been with us for a year, and we've hired her on a seasonal stuff, and then we told her to apply for Grizzly Corps so we could hire her full time.
Fantastic.
I've seen, everything I've heard. I know that, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name, but with Fire Safe Sonoma, they have the Grizzly Corps person. He seems to be doing a really awesome job. Why am I forgetting?
Oh yeah. Mason.
Mason, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, every time I've interacted with Grizzly Corps people, everyone seems to be happy.
Yeah, I'm really always impressed by the talent that comes into Grizzly Corps and just like how much value Corps fellows give to the organizations they serve and just how much they should be hired.
Oh, exactly.
Morning, Brooke. Morning, Jill.
Good morning.
And Jill, we can't see or hear you, but I am sure you're there.
I am, and I'm sorry, I'm multitasking. Can you at least hear me?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. Well, we can go ahead and get started. I'm sure more people are coming. I know Kim and Fred both said that they'd be a few minutes late, so they're on their way. But yeah, why don't we start off with some updates. Devin, do you want to give us an update on Pepperwood side?
Yeah, I haven't been here in a long time, so it's nice to see everybody, and life just gets busy in the space. But introducing Sophia to everybody, she's our Grizzly Corps fellow. I'm gonna make sure she comes to every meeting, and I'm gonna try and keep popping in when I can, just so we can continue to stay active. So sorry for my long absence, but I'm didn't disappear. Just reporting out a little bit, we've been really active in the North Bay Bear Collaborative. We did a bunch of surveys for bear, scat, and signs throughout Knights Valley area. And I think they got about 85 samples. And then that stuff will all get DNA tested and hopefully find out the population density. It's a little out of my wheelhouse, but that's pretty exciting. And it's been really cool because Tasha Commandant, our research director, has been making a lot of really good connections with landowners. And I think that's a cool thing that's been coming out of this, is wrapping them into the conversation of conservation and how to steward their land. And a lot of landowners have been really interested in that. So trying to figure out how to keep those partnerships going, I think it's going to be an interesting thing. And just seems like it's been a really cool way. Everybody likes the megafauna. So talking about bears is seems like a really cool way to engage other landowners to talk about conservation and stuff. And then also the bear research that's coming out of it. So we've kind of been in discussion a little bit about how do we keep these people engaged? How do we keep a listserv, plugging them into the forest working group as a good potential hub to introduce these people kind of into more of these conversations that are going on. So hopefully we'll be trying to drag some people, more landowners in Park West and Knights Valley into the working group. We had a flux tower fully installed, and we had stream gauges installed. And I've talked a little bit about this through the years. It's been a long process going, but we're almost fully installed. And so we have two paired watersheds, one that we've thinned and treated and are planning on burning this fall, and then one that has still pretty bad Doug fir encroachment, with the idea of trying to fully comprehend what happens to a water in a watershed, with that idea being more stems per acre, you're losing a lot more water through evapotranspiration. So thinning and burning is actually hopefully going to maintain a longer term moisture in your soil, and also lengthen the amount of stream flow you have in kind of some of your small streams. The relationship of fire and water. So it'll probably be years and years before sufficient data comes out of this, but we're pretty excited because it's finally fully installed, and we're hoping on burning this fall. The Wildfire Fuel Mapper program is back up and going, and we're fully funded and partnered with Napa County to create a similar type thing we did with Sonoma County for Napa County. With some feedback, they're going to be adding also a defensible space component. So talking about, hey, this is where defensible space should go. And so trying to factor in defensible space in through the Wildfire Fuel Mapper, so that landowners can kind of prioritize defensible space. And I'll continue, or Sophia will continue to report out about that as we get more updates. And then also doing surveys in interviews with Lake County to potentially get Lake County on board. And then Mendocino Fire State Council actually just reached out to Tasha and are interested in getting a similar type thing done. So hopefully this Wildfire Fuel Mapper program, people seem interested in that it's actually creating some benefit for landowners around prioritization and funding sources. Will hopefully keep spreading to our neighbor counties. This fall, we're hoping on burning about 165 acres in forest areas, broken through 3 different units. Probably CAL FIRE will take 2 of them, and then 1 of them will hopefully be done through the Good Fire Alliance, and potentially be part of the North Bay Treks. Not 100% sure about that yet, though. We just have done about, I think, 6 miles in fencing for our cattle. Finally have settled with insurance a little bit, so we've been able to get some of our fencing replaced for our grazing program. We're wrapping up a CDFW grant, which is going to be a lot about our forest work and some restoration stuff. So writing some report outs about that, and I'm pretty sure we'll be happy to share some of the information when we write these reports out. So I'm happy to link people to those if there's interest. And we got one of the Ag and Open Space grants, so it's really nice. We're transitioning out of this CDFW grant and right into an Ag and Open Space grant, and it's really just kind of continuing to fund our thinning and prescribed fire work along with our grazing work. And the nice thing with this CDFW grant is that the report out and monitoring piece is so much simpler than what it was for the CFW grant. So
CDFW was funding a lot of your thinning work.
yeah, well, they were funding a lot of our monitoring, their forest monitoring stuff, and then also Michael and my's time doing it, and then prescribed firework, but the thinning itself was funded through EQIP.
Okay.
So it was kind of both. It was more of like fuel breaks, time to go in and like do tree protection before prescribed fire, resources for prescribed fire, but the actual thinning component was done through
EQIP.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Which hopefully there's more funding to EQIP one of these days.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, and then we're really stoked. Our preserve management team's actually like grown rather than doing me. So we've gotten Sophia and then Annie Madden, who also is at the SRJC program, running their new fuels program there, is working with us 2 days a week. So I'm really excited that we actually have some field staff now that hopefully continue to get some on the ground work done.
That is so great. I would love to hear more about everything that you guys are doing and maybe give you a chance to present in more detail on all of this and how it works together. And I know we heard from you like, I don't know, 6 months or more ago, but feels like, yeah, it's time for an update and maybe good timing as you're wrapping up one grant moving to the next.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Michael and I will probably do a fall field tour at some point for February, and we'll announce it to everyone here.
Yay. All right. I know that fills up so fast, so we'll have to jump on it.
Yeah, we can maybe make it bigger. COVID is kind of, I think we kept it small for COVID.
Great,
I think that's concerns are minimizing.
great. Thank you, Devin, and welcome, Sophia. Nice to meet you. So for those of you who missed it, Sophia is Pepperwood's new Grizzly Corps member. She's just started and she's going to be attending our meetings pretty regularly and reporting out on some of Pepperwood's projects for Devin, and Devin will pop in when he can too. Is that right? Did I get that right? Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
And I'll send you an email just so you with linking Sophia so you can put her on the listserv if that makes the most sense.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right. Next on my screen is Jill.
Hey, and you guys can hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, and I was out of town last month, so I missed the last, I represent the Gualala River Watershed Council, Jill Butler. I missed last month's meeting of the council, so I'm still catching up, and I don't have the details on this, but the one thing I might share is that water quality is asking for watershed monitoring data that they're going to use to evaluate. I guess they're considering delisting at least portions of Gualala River watershed. I think maybe other watersheds statewide also. So that's a big deal, but I don't really know what's going on. Oh, and that's all I got.
Okay, thanks. That's super intriguing. Keep us updated as you learn more. All right, next is Dee.
Hey. The Taking Action for Living Systems and Greenbelt Alliance, I'll give a little update on both. For TALS, I'm going to be attending the state fire resilience task force meeting that's in Grass Valley later this month. It's a 2 or 3 day meeting, and there will be some opportunities for driving or going on tours, but mostly to be updated about what the task force is up to and to keep them informed about what our goals are too, because there's informal time and I use it formally to make my pitches. And then I'm also in October going to be attending a 2-day conference put on by the Swedish Chamber of Commerce for San Francisco and Silicon Valley and the United States. It's a United States Global San Francisco organization. They've both been around a long time. And I'm interested specifically on the forest conservation finance part of the meeting, and they're going to have a discussion of how to finance the change we need to see. And also they're going to talk about how we manage the forest for a sustainable future. And maybe some of you know and some of you don't, but Sweden is kind of ahead of making good fuels management programs for 50,000 private landowners. They've been doing it for years. Anyway, so it's going to be amazing information. I'll bring more about it after the conference. And I think the next thing would be technology and innovation for the future in regarding sustainable forestry. So it's going to be helpful, and I'm looking forward to it. Then TALs ourselves are still continuing to work on our pitch so that we can upgrade our level of financing ourselves so that we can get our word out more. So we're working on a pitch for that. And then I wanted to, especially since Shanti is here, to mention that we would hope that the Sonoma Land Trust would engage in our conference planning. And I know we'll talk more about our conference, but Shanti, you probably know that the Sonoma Land Trust really was the lead in our last 2 very successful ones. And we want to invite, engage, and encourage your involvement in this one. So I just say that because it was integral, it was vital for you guys to be engaged last time. And that's how I think about it as well. For this,
I already hit her up.
well, we have to do it until she joins the meeting.
Oh yeah, she's on board. She's on board.
Great, absolutely great.
We
And
got
then,
them down for, I think, 500K. Is that right?
well, we could do a lot with that.
Exactly.
But that's terrific. So on Greenbelt Alliance, Blanca Escobedo has been for the last several months our North Bay resilience manager, and she's decided to go back to Tulare County. Very good decision for her. Very sad decision for us. She was just a really wonderful leader, innovator, Latina, and we're going to miss her, but we're on the lookout for another staff person. So just for you to know that. And lastly, I have a strange question that maybe someone has already knows the answer to, but the other day I was thinking, there's so many tree removals. There's, that shouldn't be by PG&E and by others and by private landowners. And I'm wondering, can carbon be calculated by county and then monitored for tree removal or fires? I'm thinking that if that was possible, we could really at that scale then begin to put pressure on people to not do bad forestry practices because we would know about it and be able to lobby for all the right reasons. So if anybody has a comment or where I would go, I know I could go to who's our wonderful friend that is very engaged in carbon sequestration. But there's a lot of you. So anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Good questions. Thanks for all those updates, Dee. That's really interesting. I'm curious to hear what you learned at the Swedish conference. And okay, next is Brooke.
Good morning, everyone. Brooke Edwards from Regional Parks. A few updates from us. We've been working up at our Cloverdale River Park up in the northern part of the county, doing some fuels reduction work along the main trail that goes through that park. Over the summer, there have been a number of fire starts in that area. And so we're working with the local Cloverdale Fire Department to do some fuels reduction work. We'll probably be up there next month, continuing that work, setting up some piles, and then burning those in the fall. And then hopefully setting that park up for some kind of small scale prescribed burn in the spring, because there's one area in particular that's a kind of a grassland meadow that can put on a lot of dry thatch by the time we get into June and July in the summer months. And so we're looking to try to set that up and get an agreement in place with the local fire district and do some small scale prescribed burning up there. So we have that going on. We are working on a Cal VTP for our Foothill and Shiloh properties. And we're working with Jacob Harrower out of Ukiah. He is a registered professional forester. So he's working through that. Hopefully we'll have that in place this winter. And that really outlines a lot of the fuels reduction work that we've been doing along trail systems. And the idea for those parks is to do shaded fuel breaks along the trails, get some reduced fuel load there, and then use the trails as control lines so that we can then burn in between the trails, and that will help set up our burn units. So we are pushing forward with that work. Let's see. We also are looking at purchasing a curtain burner. And so we've reached out to Naftali over at State Parks. They have several. We're looking at a model that is a trailer that you can kind of pull behind. We could get a lot of use out of something like that. So we're gonna, reach out to Naftali a little bit more and then have them do a demonstration for us when they're using it this fall. But I just wanted to put the word out if anyone else has a curtain burner or have leads on kind of the pros and cons on different models, that would be great, because right now we're kind of collecting all that information and figuring out a model that would work best for our purposes. Obviously a smaller unit that we can kind of get into our parks on narrow roads. But again, our fuels and natural resource program could use that, as well as our maintenance staff, because there's still a lot of trees coming down from sods, from past fires, and there's a lot of material that would be great to be able to use that, especially right next to any kind of public access trails or roads. So go ahead and shoot me an email or put something in the chat if you guys have any leads or good ideas on curtain burners. That would be helpful. And it's great to hear some of the work that Devin, you're doing over at Pepperwood, particularly those paired watershed study. Very interesting. And that's always a question that comes up is, how does thinning and prescribed fire moving through these different watersheds, how does that affect the water budget for these different watersheds? So really interested in just learning how you guys are setting that up. So even before you have any kind of results or data to present, it would be interesting to hear how you're just setting up those paired watersheds. What's a process that you've gone through? Because we could definitely do that in some of our parks as well. And the more data, the better, of course. You also brought up some of the bear work that you've been doing up on Pepperwood. I just want to mention that there is a conference up in Lake Tahoe this, I think it's mid-October, on human bear conflict. So if anyone's interested, I think it's about a 4-day conference up there in beautiful South Lake Tahoe, looking at a lot of these issues around, increasing bear populations. Of course, up there, they have a robust bear population, and they're in the thick of it there with the human bear conflict. So just wanted to put that out there as well. And I think that's about it for us at Regional Parks. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Brooke. Always good to hear from you.
I have
And,
a
oh,
question
done.
for you, Brooke. Just regarding your VTP and using an outside forester, have you found that that expedites the process a little bit rather than working with CAL FIRE's forester?
Yeah, CAL FIRE's forester, them putting together VTP. So usually the CAL FIRE forester will put together the VMP.
Got it.
And so the VMP is a CAL FIRE document, and they kind of want ownership of that. So then that VTP is this other process that's just started up. And the reason we hooked up with Jacob was that he was actually doing a VTP for an adjacent land to Shiloh. And so then he reached out to us and we said, yeah, let's go forward and kind of do this larger landscape level, or I guess I should say just multiple properties at this point. And I think that's a good point to bring up, is that anytime we're moving forward with the VTP, if there are adjacent landowners, maybe water districts or something like that, that we can kind of pull in and bring them under the umbrella of a VTP, then we start to kind of address more of a landscape level. Yeah, so that's working out well. And I think as some people have experienced putting a consultant on VTP, sometimes they can build you the Cadillac, and sometimes you really want the economy model of just streamlined project. So I think that's one of our concerns, instead of keeping it in-house with staff at regional parks, going out to a consultant. Obviously lots of expertise out there with the consultants, but making sure they understand, kind of what your target is in terms of developing that document.
Cool, thank you.
Regarding VTPs, I'm in the heat of one, or beginning to be, with Schoen Farm. CAL FIRE has encouraged me to do this. So they want to see private foresters doing VTPs. I believe Matt Green is doing one for Coast Ridge. You copy, I'm just going to copy what they've got and do a $10,000 version of the $100,000 consultancy. And foresters can do the archaeology, and foresters can do pretty much all of the analyses required with the help of people who are experts in flora and fauna. So for Schoen Farm or something, we've already got it wired, and I'm sure you do for parks. I don't quite understand how to link two properties and have them go through the process simultaneously. And this is an issue that I should be having with parks, because we're right next door. But they're like, bring in Gallo, bring in everybody. I'm like, it's hard enough to do one at a time.
I was going to chime in that Ascent prepared a VTP for us, looking at 4 different preserves on 2 regions of the county. And it's really written in a complicated manner. And so I don't recommend having disparate properties in different regions connected in one document, if you can avoid it.
And what about Ascent? Did you like their work?
I think it's definitely top notch, and it's written, I think, by consultants for consultants. And so that's part of my task right now, is to decipher it and mesh the PSA and the NMRP, because they kind of are written in with different sets of information. And so it's a very intensive review exercise. So I'm happy to talk offline. And I think on the agenda, we have like a VTP support group line item that maybe we can dive in there. Thanks.
Okay. I'd like to chime in quickly that, of course, we all know the goal is to work at the largest scale possible. So many landowners make so much, practical sense. So it's a shame that even adjacent properties, it's difficult. And so I wonder if we can make recommendations, or find out who can make recommendations to make that process possible to work at scale.
Well, I'd like to add also that our VTP is going to cover the 3 ranches and Muniz ranches here on all the private properties. And we're just getting started on it. So I don't know how that's going to play out. But that was part of our CAL FIRE grant. But we also did write into our CAL FIRE grant a resource specialist so that we can consult. Matt Green is doing our VTP, and we have multiple landowners included in ours.
Yeah, so there is
I'll keep you updated on how that works. Right now, it's still all conceptual, and we're working on it. But I'm sure we'll be learning as we go.
Yeah, I think there is a way to kind of tie the specifics of the project and the mitigation monitoring to specific properties. But I think like Shanti brought up, it's good that if you're kind of covering a number of different properties, it's beneficial if they have the same types of kind of ecosystems and habitats. If you're working with different properties in different parts of the county with different resources, then as you dig in and try to decipher what mitigation monitoring prescription addresses what property, it becomes really complicated and really difficult. So that's just one thing I'd bring up.
So I'm really glad that this is becoming like such a topic of interest, because we do need to have more conversations about this. But I would just say let's tap back into this later in the agenda, and then also schedule some time outside of this meeting to talk VTP, because there's just so much more that needs to be said. But I want to keep going through our introductions, our updates. We're a little behind on schedule since we started kind of late. So, and we have a lot of people to go through. So let's keep it going. Shanti, you are next.
Awesome. So great to see you all. I've kind of missed a few meetings, and I'm just going to report on Sonoma Land Trust stewardship of our coastal forests, and kind of leave out the rest of the county because we don't have the rest of our team here today. So, on our Little Black Mountain Preserve, which is actually part of the Coast Ridge Community Forest, it touches, I think, Olala Ranch, and then Pole Mountain is just south, and then below that is the Jenner Headlands, and that is all kind of kitty corner to Mina's ranches. So Judy and I and Craig and a bunch of others are all kind of in the same corner. So on Little Black Mountain and Pole Mountain, I just want to acknowledge Jill Butler, because the CFIP plans for those properties really laid the foundation for all of our work. And we're really, I don't think we imagined like 10, 15 years ago that we would be scaling up in this manner. And so Jill, I just wanted to give you a tip of the hat and let you know that we are moving forward with planning for the NRCS funded shaded fuel break at Little Black Mountain. And we're finding that because of fuel rates increasing and contractor costs going up, that we're not able to do all of it at once this coming fall. We're going to have to phase it and look for more money, but we are going to be able to do the bulk of it in the next month or so. So I'm super excited to get that lined up. That's my top priority. But then simultaneously, we are trying to implement the VTP at Pole Mountain with our recently completed VTP in partnership with CAL FIRE. And so my work there is kind of parallel tracks where I'm looking at the VTP with a close lens to look at kind of our window of work, because we have a lot of wildlife use windows to avoid. So we kind of have the month of January to conduct that burn. I have a question about the VTP. I know we're going to get back to it later, but I just want to throw it out there that one of the tasks right now relates to a memo that we need to produce discussing the various sensitive natural communities like tan oak, bay laurel forest, oak woodlands, and their fire interval windows. And so if anyone else has that information already prepared for those habitat types, I would love to talk to you about how we can share that kind of piece, because that, you know, can be specific to the region, but it's also like throughout the county. So that's an area where we can really promote each other's work. And then on the ground, there is a need for additional treatment because our 100-foot on either side of the road didn't go to the nearest like feasible control line. And so there's additional thinning needed to get the fuels in the shape we need it for broadcast burning. And so also need to masticate resprouts that have gotten so shrubby that along the edge of a control line, they would be, you know, affect fire behavior. So those are some extra costs that I'm trying to weasel out of my budgets to make that happen. So we're ready to go this winter. And then 2 more things. I think of our Estero Americano Preserve as being, you know, like a coastal prairie kind of refuge, but it's our work there related to retaining native California coastal prairie also pertains to our fuels management work. And so we're working with NRCS to do some coyote brush removal. And that is just to remove encroaching brush that is displacing grasslands, but there's also a fuels management component, as well as like maintaining existing fencing and water for livestock, because that's super expensive. So maybe offline, if anyone's dealing with livestock infrastructure upgrades, I'd love to chat separately. And then finally, I did connect with Kim about Sonoma Land Trust ideas for the Forest Conference. We thought it kind of snuck up on us. It just wasn't on our radar, and then suddenly it's great, it's on your agenda through these meetings, and we would love to play a role. So I think, you know, more conversations need to be had, but at a high level, we have some ideas about some really great panels where we could kind of take some of our lessons learned and, you know, kind of team up with others working in the same arenas and kind of connect about these certain like focal areas that are really relevant to our work. And then finally, I'm going to see some of you on the tour this Saturday. I think I'm going to make it. So I'm looking forward to talking more about coast forests there. Thank you.
Thanks, Shanti. I always struggle to take notes when you're talking because you talk so fast and so eloquently, you don't miss a beat. But that was a lot of good information. Thanks so much for all that. Judy, you're next. And you are on mute.
Thank you. We already started talking about the VTP. We expect that to take about a year in our CAL FIRE grant project. And Matt Green is doing our VTP. And so, like I said, we're looking at all of these properties. I'm glad that, you know, that Shanti, you spoke out, and so did you, Brooke, because I'm sure this is going to be a learning curve for us and for Matt. So we're moving forward on that. We're dealing with all the landowner outreach right now. We have 3 ranches, 4 ranches actually. We're partnering with Mina's Ranch and ranches, and we're meeting with them on Sunday to talk about what that partnership is going to look like and how we're going to work together. We're all pretty excited about that. And that's kind of what the focus right now of the Forest Council. And then the Sonoma Coast Collaborative, Matt, Marshall, and I went up to Annapolis on Sunday or Saturday and had a great meeting up there. Good turnout, a lot of enthusiastic people. One of the road associations really wants to get involved in the work that we're doing and how we can share our resources. Which was the expected outcome of that meeting. And we were invited up there by Bonnie Plakos, who is the North Sonoma Coast Fire Chief. And she said, I don't know if we're going to get a good turnout. I don't know, what people's interest will be. Well, it was great. And so we'll be meeting with them again. They're going to come to our October 1st Sonoma Coast Collaborative Planning meeting for the upcoming grant cycle, including CAL FIRE, Sonoma County, and other ones. I think the Coastal Conservancy might have one coming out again. And so these meetings are to look at all of our projects, and we have been encouraged by Marshall, to get your projects done so that when those, get them developed so that when those grants come out, we're ready to go. And so we've been meeting for a year since the last grant cycle. And now we're going to start putting them together, and we're going to include the Brushy Loop and I forgot who else is there, Little Creek Road Association up there in Annapolis, and how we can work with them, how we can support their efforts. And so it's pretty exciting. It's a lot of work being done out here on the coast, and it feels, good to be a part of it. And I want to acknowledge Brooke and Shanti and Craig Hayes from the Muniz Ranches. What started out as just, these informal conversations about how are we going to look at, fire on a landscape level here on the coast. And it just kind of evolved. And now, we have communities from Muniz to Annapolis, and Matt is reaching out right now to Kashaya, and because he's working with them, and we're all kind of talking individually, but bringing them into the planning of what is coming up. So it's been a few years coming, but it's really starting to feel, like we're really doing something and making a difference out here. And we couldn't have done it with all of the people, our small group that has now grown. And I think that that's part of it. One of the things I did want to bring up, because we're doing a lot of community meetings right now, but some for the Cal Fire, some for other projects, but we were talking about forest practice rules. And we have a lot of people coming together here in their individual road groups and doing volunteer work along their roads. And, we have Bay Road in Cazadera, Blue Jay Road, a few people on the Navarro Ranch here on our ranches. And we're looking at, how can we support these groups? They're doing great work, but some of it is not all. I mean, some of them are working too close to the stream. Some of them are just cutting and, leaving these bare hillsides for sediment. And so we're looking at how to outreach to the community groups. And I don't know if if any of you are doing something similar, because they're doing great work. We don't want to come in and tell them how to do their work, but we want to be able to guide them in a productive way. So if some of you are, doing similar outreach, please let me know, and I would appreciate that. And I think that is, that's it right now for us.
Awesome. Thanks, Judy. Yeah, some ideas about who could help. I know Fish and Wildlife's, oh gosh, what is her name now? Robin Swan has always been really great about coming out and talking to landowners about streams. And she does not have like a big regulatory agency presence about her. She's just really helpful. So I don't know if that could be nice, but I'm sure other partners are also engaged in outreach.
Thank you. I worked with Robin when I was still working for Fish and Wildlife. I will contact her. Thank you.
Sure.
We're doing a lot on fire. We're doing a lot on drought, but we're not doing much right now in watershed. And so I'll give her a call. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks. All right, Kim.
Hey, folks. Good morning to y'all. It's great to be here with you guys. I haven't been up to very much, so I don't really have much to report on. So actually, the thing that I've been focusing lately on is this technical advisory committee who has been supporting the vegetation management grant program since the beginning. When I started in September, that was kind of a decision that we made to try to provide good technical assistance, try to look at the grant program on how it's trying to fulfill a variety of different needs. And then the supervisors made a decision to form the Healthy Forest Ad Hoc Committee, which is Supervisors Gore and Hopkins, to really get down to what should the remaining funding of PG&E be used for. And so we've been hosting several meetings with our technical advisory committee to basically go through the original CLE report to summarize the critical things that was addressed in that report to how the funding should be used. And then our task as the TAC will be to tee up this information and our initial recommendations. So that's been where the bulk of my time has been spent over the past probably 3 months as I worked with the TAC and try to get and glean as much information out of all you guys. I just had a meeting with Brooke yesterday. I've been meeting with a lot of different partners who are doing great work. And I really want to try to capture that to share with the ad hoc, as well as to fortify what our recommendations are ultimately going to be. So with that in mind, these are going to be draft recommendations. We're going to present it to the ad hoc to get their feedback. And then we're going to be hosting a public meeting on October 6th, where we want to share those initial recommendations to the public to get some feedback as to, are we on track? Are you aware of this type of information? How do the Cal VTPs work in various habitat types and regions in our county? What are some of the tools that Fire Forward has been advocating for and trying to promote? What does workforce development look like? All these factors that kind of get rolled into vegetation management, treatments, the types of things that we want to see a holistic approach. And so this is a lot of work to kind of bring together. And we really hope that this public meeting will be a good opportunity to kind of have us being able to provide some information and then get good feedback on if we're close to the target, if we're completely off target, and whether I should be looking for another job. So I just want to invite you all to that. So thanks. I think that's all I'll share for today.
All right, thanks, Kim. All right, and next is Lynn.
Well, that doesn't sound like you haven't been doing a lot, Kim. That sounds like a lot. So I also want to applaud everyone else. I appreciate how much individual and collective work you all do. I feel like we haven't been doing very much up here in the Upper Mark-West watershed. I think we're starting to see some new landowners. We're starting to see some people move into the watershed after losing a lot of people from the Tubbs fire and the Glass fire. So part of what we've been doing up here is just reaching out to new landowners, trying to make people aware of what they can do to be fire safe during fire season, creating, again, post-pandemic, we lost a lot of our road captains. So we have also been working on trying to get our road captain system back up and fill in the gaps that were created. And this is my fire survivor cat who likes to come to these meetings. I think that's been it. We've been a lot of community organizing along with just individual continuing to do brush cutting and prepping burn piles for the winter. The other thing I would say is we have had a bumper crop of black oak acorns. So we have been collecting acorns this year. It's amazing the healthy, plump, beautiful black oak acorns we have. And Mononsville is doing an acorn planting on Sunday if anyone wants to come out and help create the next generation's forest. And that's about it up here. It's been beautiful. We're just grateful we haven't had fires.
Lynn, can you just in a sentence or two say what you are thinking of the grant, the CAL FIRE grant?
So CAL's Upper Mark-West Fire Safe Council, Diamond Mountain Fire Safe Council, along with RCD and Fire Safe Sonoma received a CAL FIRE grant. And so I think we're still in very preliminary stages, and that's been part of the reaching out and beefing up our road captains and what we're now calling in some of the adjacent communities, key coordinators, because that grant includes some areas where we haven't had a lot of participation, the Chalfont, Kings Hill Road, Sharp Road, Mountain Home Ranch Road. Those are either just at the edges or just outside of the Upper Mark-West watershed, what we traditionally have had as boundaries, but they are areas that could be strategically very important for fire breaks. So we're trying to organize with those landowners, have a representative from each road who can help us meet the rest of their neighbors, so that when we get to looking at the treatments that we want to, the actual treatments that we want to do, we feel like we have a good network of neighbors. So at this point, that grant is mostly focused on landowner networking, and through that process, then trying to define where the best strategic areas are for fuel reduction, fire breaks, prepping for prescribed burn, whatever the next phase of work projects will be. We're trying to make sure that we have all the landowners involved at early stages and supporting, listening to what they want, and then supporting, having them support what we collectively decide to do. Is that
Great.
what you're asking?
Yeah, that was perfect, dear. Thank you so much.
How much was the CAL FIRE grant?
It's not a lot of money. I want to say it's somewhere in the $350,000 range.
I wish
So-
it was. It's 176,000.
Oh, it's not a lot of money.
But it's
It's-
going to
it-
bring us the next grant, which will be for a
Yeah.
lot more.
Yeah, so this one is really focused on that landowner networking, coming up with the desired plan, and as Dee said, helping us launch and be ready for a grant to do the work on the ground. That's not a lot of money.
No, we got to get some more, you know. Maybe from PG&E money, Kim. Well, come on.
That's a hell of a suggestion. I love that idea. I'll talk
We'll be
to
ready.
PG&E. Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Lynn. All right, Fred, you're next.
Not a lot to report. Working on a timber harvest plan at Jenner. Brooke, we're gonna get it done. It's gonna happen. And a VTP for Schoen Farm. So I've gone to the website a bunch of times and talked to CAL FIRE. And I'll hold that for the next discussion. And looking for nurseries to do things like black oak or white oak or red bud. So if you have an idea, that would be great. And very happy to see community forestry alive and well in Sonoma County after all this time.
So Fred, would you say more what you're looking for with nurseries for black oak and white oak? I didn't follow what you're.
I need to
looking
produce on the order of 10,000 hardwood seedlings over the next 5 years. And I'd like them to be things like red bud and blue blossom and white oak, black oak, blue oak. I want color in the landscape, and this is to respond to the fire in the Wallbridge zone. And so we are planting pollinators as well as 100,000 conifers. I mean, those are already in the ground, but this is a biochar cleanup, broom control, or get the roads worked out with good vegetation and hedgerows to bring back the bees, to bring back the whole pollinator system. Because if you just focus on the conifers, you're replanting on monoculture. So, but we've got this tied up with biochar and I think it's called CRP, Conservation Resource Program, which happens for NRCS after fires. So trying to discuss the difference between a hedgerow, a shelter break, and a bunch of trees in a line with them is challenging. We agree. But very interested to hear what everybody else is doing. Keep going.
Okay, great. Thanks, Fred. And let's see, next on the phone is Ray Kraus. Are you there, Ray? Okay, well, we want to hear from you. I'll just go on to the next person and see if you have a chance to unmute while we're doing that. So next is Karen Leone.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Cool. Wasn't sure this microphone worked. I just wanted to check in. Try to be pretty brief on the CWPP and where that's at. I know inquiring minds have been wondering what's going on with that. I've been working a lot with Kim and a variety of other people. We're in the middle of really trying to come up with an equitable ranking system. So kind of beyond what the tool does now, we're looking at dividing projects up into two sort of project buckets, ones that are for near home and structure hardening and education and outreach kind of stuff, with the second bucket being the more wildland fuels type projects. It's just really hard to rank, to comparatively score a watermelon and an apple, right? And so by creating these two buckets, we're going to be able to adjust the ranking processes so that we're making sure that we're encouraging new projects in both of those areas and moving that forward. So that's in sort of early stage development. I'm working with Kim and the folks who are working on the Wildfire Resilience Planner and Fire Safe Sonoma and all kinds of people on that. We're really hoping that we will have the final CWPP before the board in February. It's a very tight turnaround for us. But that's what I really want to see, because we need this tool. Increasingly, funders are now asking that projects be listed in a CWPP to be considered for funding. So we really need to get that tool built and moving forward so that we can have a finalized CWPP for all of you as soon as possible. So given that, February is like day after tomorrow. So I will be trying to reach out early and often as soon as we have the public draft out. I am going to really encourage folks to comment quickly and hopefully sparingly on the draft. Kim's laughing, he knows. On that draft when it comes out. So that will help us really move the process forward. So just stay tuned and hopefully I'll be able to do a more complete presentation of what we have going on within the next month or two.
That's so great. And I think I was just thinking about, it's been a year or something since we first kind of encouraged people to put projects in. And so it's like, a year of work has happened. And so I was just thinking, if you have any advice for people, if you want us to be updating things or maybe even like kind of adding just general language to projects so that it's like not a super big update, but just general enough that it can capture sort of things that have happened lately. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you mean modify projects that are in there now?
Or
is that what
update
you're
them?
talking about?
Yeah, is that not the time?
I think that I'm meeting next week with some folks to talk about how we're going to make that happen. I think that those modifications by separating those projects out into the two buckets is going to change the questions that we're asking and the way those are going in. We're also looking at, by the way, creating a group which consists of a variety of folks so first we'll get the objective ranking, which is just based on project criteria. And then we'll do a second ranking that looks at more subjective values, implementability and functionality and stuff. I would say right offhand, you can enter a project in now, but I would say probably you're going to have to do it again. Because I think that we're going to have people re-enter projects. And we're still working on the details. And hopefully by next month at this time, I'll have more detail on that and be more ready to push forward. But that is right now one of my primary focuses.
Right. Yeah. Because I don't want this to turn into a longer conversation, but I was just thinking about how this document is supposed to serve us for like 5+ years. And it's like, how do you kind of like state the goals and projects that you might have while being kind of broad enough to include future things you might want to do that aren't fully planned?
Well, the way that works is we have the 14 sort of project priorities for the county, which are what we gleaned through the public meetings, which include everything from equity to large scale to structure hardening so pretty much everything that we heard in the meetings repeatedly is in those 12 overall goals and objectives. And those are also what provide the ranking score. How many of those are you hitting with any given project? The project list really should be updated every year.
Okay.
So what we're looking at is creating a deadline, right? That will coincide with other deadlines as much as possible. So that those projects really need to be in at one time, then they'll be ranked, and then the project list and ranking tiers will be updated annually. And that's, we're really hoping Fire Safe Sonoma is involved in that. Those can be updated in the appendices. Once the document is adopted, the document itself can't change, but the appendices can.
Okay, good. I see. That helps me. I was starting to
Yeah.
worry
Yeah,
about how
right.
things they come, you know.
Sorry, you only have one chance every 5 years. Yeah, that's patently not a good thing. So yeah, those will hopefully be updated every year and can reflect changes as they come along, because who knows what the disaster is going to be next year.
Yeah, perfect. Kim, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, like, that's kind of the importance of this meeting on October 6th, is that we're really hoping to be able to bring all the pieces together so that you understand the work that PG&E is funding and how it's supporting Carleone's work with the CWPP. How does the Wildfire Resilience Planner tool, how that's going to help you guys really understand what your properties are, what kind of treatments might be most appropriate, and then funding. All these things we're going to try to roll it together to show kind of the different pieces. There's a lot of pieces out there, and they're all moving at different speeds. So we just want to kind of also provide like a timeline of how things are going to roll out, so people have realistic expectations about what's going to be available funding wise or technical assistance wise, or how to list up your project in something like the CWPP. So again,
and having that early rollout date, right, will also give us the opportunity in the subjective ranking piece of it with the committee to look at projects and go, oh, this is a great project, but they missed this and this needs to be tightened up. And that'll give us the opportunity to look at them and give us the time to kick those back to Kim's technical assistance program. Fire Safe Sonoma also has some money to provide technical assistance. So what we're really hoping is that we'll end up with stronger projects and provide help to community groups who don't necessarily have the expertise to write a really good grant straight out of the box. It's not for everybody.
Yes, Len?
Is there a time frame for that meeting on October 6th that we should be putting aside, morning or afternoon or evening?
5 to 7 o'clock.
5 to 7 p.m. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Carleone. That's really valuable. I'm going to be following up with you and Kim, just think about what kind of follow-up is appropriate for this group, since that was a lot of good information.
Please do, Adriana. Come on in. We need help and we need it fast.
All right, awesome. Okay, great. Well, Ray, if you are there, please give us your update. I'll give you a couple minutes or moments to unmute.
I'll just pass and catch up next time.
Okay. All right. Well, good to have you here. All right, cool. So we have half an hour. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on mute. I was gonna say we have like a half hour to do the next things in our agenda, and then leave 30 minutes for my presentation about the North Bay Forest Improvement Program. So I'm gonna just kind of swing through some of these things sort of quickly. Fred, the next one on our agenda is to just remind everyone of the hike this Saturday. So I thought maybe you'd like to kind of let people know what to expect for this Saturday, and yeah, just encourage people to sign up. Fred, maybe Fred stepped away. So I will go ahead and give you guys a pitch for it. So this is a hike that Fred is going to be leading with Brendan O'Neill and Ryan Klausch from state parks, from the coastal state parks. They'll be hiking around Salt Point and Fort Ross state parks this Saturday from 10 to 2. It may not even last that long if you're worried about, you know, a 4-hour event in the middle of your day. Just know that it's kind of flexibly scheduled depending on what people are interested in seeing. But the purpose of the hike is to go out there, take a look at the state of the woods along the coast, talk about some of the forest health issues impacting the coastal forests, and think about the science behind what's happening out there. I think they're going to be demystifying some common misconceptions about the role of fire in the coastal forest and how that impacts health, and then talking about some of the management objectives and tools that landowners can take on. And maybe we'll circle back to this when Fred is back, because I'd love for him to talk a little bit more in detail about what those would be. But yeah, seems like it's going to be a great event. If you have yet to sign up and you would like to, you can use the link on the agenda to learn more and sign up at Eventbrite. And it's free. It's just nice for us to know who to expect to come. Any questions about that? Nope. All right. Okay, so the update on the Forest Conservation Conference next year. I just wanted to give an update that we are, the subcommittee is working on the topics for that event. We have kind of some topic titles and concepts, but now we're working on really fleshing out the description for each panel and figuring out sort of like which ones we have enough material for, if there's really a there, you know, if we have speakers in mind and places we want to go see, and outcomes that we think are good for the attendees. And we're going to package all of that up, that topic session material for you guys to look at. And so you can review it and tell us which are the ones that you think are most important, most applicable to not just us, but also, you know, landowners who are newer to the field. So we'll be providing those by, I would say, early October for your consideration. We really want to get the conference concept really narrowed in and tight, because we want to start taking it to different funders and putting that material into proposals and bring some money into the conference so we can start working on building it. So I think we have a subcommittee meeting coming up for that, for the conference, and I totally, you know, invite any of you to join who are interested. We're always taking new folks, so don't feel like if you haven't been a part of it so far that you're not invited. You are. Let me just take a look. Our next meeting is next Wednesday, the 21st at 2 o'clock, and we'll probably be going from 2 to 3:15. So you can just drop it in the chat if you'd like me to add you. I can just add your name on to the calendar invite. You are welcome to come. Kim, did I miss anything?
No, I think that sounds really good. Yeah, you guys are all welcome to participate. This is kind of like a great time to engage with the conference planning, because we're really going into the technical sessions that we really think are important. And so this is a good chance for you guys to weigh in and say, yeah, this is the things I really want to support.
And then it was suggested that we have a reflection on the shaded field break workshop that happened at Jenner Headlands a couple of weeks ago, and I wasn't able to attend that, but I think that Kim was there and probably a few others. So if anyone wanted to just kind of share out what they thought were some of their big takeaways from that event, that would be great.
Yeah, I can launch with that. Quick comments. The Jenner Headlands was a recipient of the Vegetation Management Grant Program in 2021, thanks to an excellent proposal that Brooke, I think, was the original author on. And so it supported a shaded fuel break that they've been working on for since 2013, I think. And so one of the things that we felt was really important is that we use these publicly funded projects to share our lessons learned, be able to show people what the heck a shaded fuel break looks like. What are the advantages of it during a fire event, pre-fire events? How are we using these tools? And so this was a great opportunity to have a workshop of about 25 people. Supervisor Hopkins joined us, Marshall Tuberville, and the staff at the Wildlands Conservancy. And it just was really well organized by the Wildlands Conservancy. Luke Farmer did a great job on kind of guiding us through. And then the participants ran the gamut of people like Judy's group had several representatives. The Muniz ranches are also doing a shaded fuel break. So they all got to share kind of their experiences or their questions. And I just think it was really a very positive event. And we hope to host these types of things across the county in a variety of different habitat types. So people are learning from people who are doing. I think that's one of the greatest values of having a locally funded grant is you kind of get to tweak it so that we get to see how it should be applied in real life under the conditions that we're all working in.
Great, thanks, Kim. Was anyone else able to attend the workshop?
Yeah, I was there, and I agree with everything Kim said. One of the good takeaways for us also was, we bought a chipper with our county grant, and the Wildlands Conservancy bought a masticator that they will be sharing with the community. And so I talked to Luke Farmer a little bit about this, about how that would work and how our chipper program is working, and being able to share these resources, within our communities. Our chipper is in this area, Timber Cove has one, and now they're working with someone on Myers grade. And these were all grant funded through the vegetation management grant. So seeing what they were doing up there and how we can, because we're starting a whole new shaded fuel break program, and through our CAL FIRE grant, and looking at what they're doing up there and seeing what Brooke had done when he was there, and I went on some of those previous tours to where they are now, was also enlightening and helpful. Looking at the maintenance that's required for these projects, and how fast some of the vegetation grows back. So I just really thought it was a great morning, and just also connecting with all of the other groups and people who were there and listening to what they're doing. All in all, on multiple levels, it was very good.
I'd like to just throw something at Kim while we're at this. I spent some time on the phone with Starhawk yesterday, who's looking at the thinning of the pines. And now we've got the masticator and the chipper. The other pieces we need are a jammer or a small cable yarder, and a wood processor on the end of an excavator. And that way you can bring trees up from 1,000 feet away to the top of the ridge, and take some of them and slice them into boards, and take the rest and slice and make it into chips. And Star tells me that that'll all disappear pretty fast. Give it to the landowner first and give it to the community second. And you've got a great material for blah, blah, blah. But I'm saying, if I were the county, I'd be looking at that kind of uniform caterpillar of use of utilization. Okay.
All right, awesome. Hey. So awesome. If there are no other reflections on that, I just want to say I'm glad you guys got to make it, and hopefully we'll just see more of those kinds of things, because it's really nice to be able to learn on site with people who are doing their projects and see the equipment. It's all very helpful. So then next on our agenda, we're moving really fast, by the way. Great job, everyone. Oh, actually, let me go back, Fred. I just gave like a little intro to the hike this Saturday, but I thought maybe you could describe it in more detail, what we're going to be seeing and what you want the audience to come away with.
What we'll be seeing is the forests along the coast, and where I think I see SOD, the state parks think they see pine blister rust, and get a vision of what is going on right there with the combination of factors that are degrading the forests and what possibilities there are for the future. We'll be going from basically Fort Ross, beyond Timber Cove up to Cruz Rhododendron, and then back to Plantation. I don't know if we have talked to you, Judy, about meeting us, say, around Freddie Cresswell's to point back and look at Coast Ridge. Are you there? Maybe. But we'd like to take a look at the processes that are in process. And so it's kind of a, what the hell do we do now with SOD and all the other diseases that are affecting these things, as well as the Myers fire? I think it mainly be sort of a nerd trip, but that's okay with me. I just want to talk to anybody about it.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's gonna be really interesting. Thank you. All right. So then going back down the agenda, we have, I think a lot of you are aware about this new funding opportunity from the Forest Service. It's called their Community Wildfire Defense Grant. And this is, it's a new grant to me. I don't know if it has, if it's brand new or if it's just new to me, but they are offering, they have a really large fund. It's a national fund, and it goes to communities who either want to prepare or update a CWPP, or for those who have projects that are written in an existing and approved CWPP. And I think we just, Kim and I were talking about this. We just wanted to see who's interested in applying and what might be, what projects are ready to go, or if people are kind of thinking, well, we're not ready now, but we might go for the next round, because it will be repeated in the future.
Yes, Ivan is correct. It's a new program. U.S. Forest Service is the lead. $1 billion over the next 5 years nationwide. So there will not be allocations per state or region. And Ivan is also correct. It's an October 7th deadline. So I think it really bodes well to be thoughtful about what we present. If you guys are interested, I think the grant program would like to probably solicit funding from this fund to see if we can do something a little bit larger for the county under the county supported CWPP, but we'll see how that goes.
So how would you rank the projects that in Sonoma County that get funneled into this other grant application? Like, what is that process?
To be determined. I honestly have not put much thought to that. It's under the CWPP that Carleone is helping to craft. I'm really not sure exactly how that's going to roll out, but it's a large funding source. They provide up to $250,000 if you're developing a CWPP for the first time, and then up to $10 million to implement the CWPP. CWPP, sorry, a little brain fart there. But yeah, so there's a lot of different ways to look at this. I think Fire Safe Sonoma is interested in supporting groups, but I'm not sure exactly where they lie. It's a Roberta question.
Thank you.
Yeah, the ranking, I think that's why it's so important. This grant opportunity in particular, I think makes it very clear why it's so important that we find some way to equitably rank projects across the county. Because if we can get enough money in to implement 5 top projects, we have to know what the top 5 projects are. And it's a very difficult space to make those kinds of judgments in Sonoma County because everybody's project is more important than everybody else's project. And so, we need to do this. And so it will be a transparent process based on transparent values and which will be calculated both using the Wildfire Resilience Planner as well as the other tools that we have at our fingertips. But it is going to be hard and controversial, is my guess. Nobody's going to be happy. And also, I would assume that this ranking process will look completely different in 5 years than it will look in this first year. Because that's how you have to do it. Otherwise, you just have to have one entity in charge going, I say this is the best project. And I don't think that that would work very well in this county.
Yeah, kind of with that in mind, I had talked to Roberta just to see if Fire Safe Sonoma had any kind of like desires for this program, and Roberta was like, no, we're not ready to make recommendations on projects or anything. Like that's really just going to happen later. And she also said that they don't have capacity right now to write grants for any communities who might be interested, but they are supportive of those who are ready to go, throwing in their application. But yeah, I think this grant is a great opportunity that's just coming a little too soon for us, but we'll be ready for it in the future. Okay, great. Well, I'll just go on to the next one then. And Caroleon, I'm so glad that you're here today to be able to speak to that, because I was very curious what you thought about it. So thanks for coming. Yeah, so next is that Cal VTP support group. So we had started or organized this group months back, and I think we had a strong but small group of very interested people, and I think there was a moment where it was like, yes, we know this group needs to exist, but we're not quite ready to make use of it. But I think over time, maybe we are more ready to really start having beefy conversations. I think rubber is hitting the road, so I'm excited to revive this group. And I asked him if he would be kind of at the helm of it, and he sounded interested. And so Kim, I'll let you take it away with kind of what you see as our next steps.
Yeah, so I think we've kind of beaten this pretty good today, but I think the general gist of it is that there's many of us who are participating in some form or another with the Cal VTP. Some are on the early steep learning curve, and others are a little bit more advanced. So I think the idea is just to try to share more examples. And again, this is kind of the idea of collaboration is the key to making this successful. SLT, I just learned, is doing that, was able to get some support from the Board of Forestry to try this tool and how it applies to several different habitat types. So that's one model. The Healdsburg, City of Healdsburg, got some funding from Coastal Conservancy to do another Cal VTP that's completed. So we have some examples that are done. And we have some that are in the chamber, so to speak, that are moving forward as quickly as possible. So it'd be really good to learn from each other. And one thing that I'm recommending to our technical advisory committee is that we try to support between 5 and 8 Cal VTPs next year as part of the vegetation management grant program. And so this is probably shouldn't be sharing information like that, but I think it's important to say that, let's try to be supportive of one another and learn from them. The idea was to try to provide this type of tool in a variety of different habitats so we can start to kind of populate that template so that when Upper Mark West develops a Cal VTP, much of the work has already been done for them. They've been able to identify sensitive habitat that need to be avoided or need special treatments. This tool is super valuable. That it's essentially a 10-year long CEQA, if you will, to be able to conduct a variety of different treatments across the landscape. And so I think that's to me really makes a lot of sense. So I think next steps would be get a list of folks who really want to participate in that, and maybe dial down as to what we actually want to accomplish through the subcommittee. And by support, I think we also need to hire a professional therapist to work through all of this to calm our nerves about this stuff. So anyway, any comments?
First comment, I think that your support of the Cal VTP with sharing equipment really makes a big difference, because that's something that limits people, both the cost of equipment and the ability, and also of course the operators, but having a VTP team that is equipped would be awesome.
Yeah, I guess I could just add another thought, which is like, I think it's great that we have people at kind of different stages, some folks who have finished, some who are in progress, some who are just starting. And I think it's great to kind of use the muscle of the group to troubleshoot things together, invite speakers to talk with us where we can all kind of learn at once instead of having the same experts meet with each of us. You know, I think we can kind of give CAL FIRE's staff like a place for them to interact with us potentially all at once. You know what I mean? Yeah, I guess the other thing I wanted to say is that there are other kinds of like efforts to educate the public on Cal VTP that we should be plugging into. Just yesterday I sent out some free webinars. Kim actually made me aware of them. They're from Cal Poly, but they are doing these webinars all about Cal VTP. One of them is like looking at a specific project example from San Luis Obispo County, where they walk through like what they did and how. The second webinar is a chance for people to submit their questions and have them answered live, or well, they submit their questions ahead of time and then they have CAL FIRE staff and of consulting forestry answer them during the webinar, so everyone gets to hear the answers. So things like that, like I definitely want to fold into this group too. Yeah, it's kind of nice to know that like everyone is figuring out how to use this tool, not just us. So we should, not feel alone. And I also just agree that in some cases we're going to be doing multi-property projects, and those are just even more, more. I don't want to say more important, but they're just like they are very important, and so we want to support that happening and hope for a good outcome. Yeah, so great. Kim, thanks for that. Maybe everyone who is interested, I think what would be a good idea is if, Kim and I, we can send out a group to the whole listserv, so not just people at this meeting, but the whole listserv, and we'll be requesting for people to let us know if they're interested in that subgroup or not.
I think that's a really good idea, Fred. Ascent is a consulting firm that basically wrote the original EIR for the state, and have been doing a number of different Cal VTPs in Marin and here in Sonoma County. They actually the ones that wrote the one for SLT. And then the Board of Forestry would be another great source. Maybe it makes sense for us to form our little subcommittee and really dive down into what are some of the essential questions that we really want to ask those people before we invite them to maybe a larger meeting, where we actually do it here live on a Thursday, one of our working group meetings. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, Ascent is also doing the Wildlands Conservancy, and I think that would be a good meeting for Matt Green to take, because, and who, the Mitch, anyway, ERSI folks, because our local foresters really need this information.
Mitch Hayden from environmental resources.
Right, and
solutions.
Jason Wells.
Jason Wells, that's great.
This is
Yeah.
how we get it out there.
And then also Robert Aguero would have some good insights on that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I would like to just reiterate that it would be great to have foresters that have written and kind of implemented some of these VTPs, because of course, we know we need to have those folks that have on the ground knowledge of how to implement these different treatments on the ground, and also developing these documents to have someone with that spectrum of skills and knowledge of the VTP and how to implement would be really important, besides just having maybe consultants that are more of the desktop type of document publication on the ground, how it's implemented, and the really important information on how to develop these documents so they're usable out on the ground.
That's a great point. I've heard that same comment from Bob Neal at SLT. It's just it's a lot of work after the document is approved, and when you want to make sure it's as practical as possible. Good comment.
Okay, well, it looks like we're right on time, 11:30. So if there's no other comments about Cal VTP for the moment, I will fire up my presentation.
I'd like to introduce our next presenter and speaker today, Adriana Stagnaro from RCD. Would you like to share with us your ideas?
Thanks, Kim. I would like someone to help me figure out how to present a PowerPoint presentation. That's what I'd really like. I don't know why this is always so hard for me. Is it under view?
Share screen.
Okay. Okay, hold on. I need to. Okay, can you see it? Yes, okay, great. All right, so I am presenting on the North Bay Forest Improvement Program. This is just kind of an intro for all of you. I know some of you are familiar with it, but for those who aren't, I thought this would be just kind of a good intro, especially since applications are being accepted now through the end of the month. So before we get into the program itself, I wanted to just kind of put it in context with the rest of the RCD programming around forest conservation work. So I think this is kind of a helpful way to think about what the RCDs do in our community to support forest management, forest conservation. So it's funny that I made this into a pyramid because it's really more of a cycle, and some things happen concurrently and not, one after the other. But basically we have essentially five different services. One is advising, which is just kind of like providing advice, kind of one-off answers to questions that you might have about your property, or about how to access funding, what kind of technical assistance you might need. We're always available to answer phone calls and make site visits and help at that kind of like one-off level. We also provide education to landowners in the community about how to set goals, how to design projects, and how to get work done on the ground. Side note, we always recommend that folks plug into the University of California Ag and Natural Resources Department's forest workshops. Those are such a good resource. The forest planning workshops really help landowners understand how to do planning, and we will pretty much every time funnel landowners over to that workshop series to say, hey, if you're interested in doing something more on your property, you want to do this training. So once landowners are they realize, okay, my property requires a level of like holistic planning for me to address my conservation needs. We have planning services available. We've written in, gosh, probably 30 forest management plans in the last 3 years. And forest management plans are a document written between the landowner and the forester, in this case, either Jason on staff or someone that we've hired, or even I've assisted with forest management planning. And those are documents that basically take a look at your property and ask you, what are your management goals? What are the resources that you have on the property? And what are the projects that you want to do to reach your goals? After planning is done and before implementation can happen, there must be an environmental review period where your project goes through environmental review, and any of the necessary mitigation or avoidance measures are kind of built into the design of the project so that it can happen without environmental impacts. Then finally, once everything is teed up and ready to go, you can implement. And there are a variety of funding programs that are there to support landowners with implementation. And the North Bay Forest Improvement Program is just one of those. I should add on here that we are also, obviously, as you know, another service that we offer is grant writing. So at any kind of stage of this pyramid, there may be public interest in writing a grant to support any of these activities, and we often do grant writing with the community to bring about new programs or new projects. So just putting this in context a little bit. So yeah, I've highlighted the pink one because implementation, because that's really what the North Bay Forest Improvement Program does support the most. So, oops. For today, so this is actually, we won't go over all of these things, but yeah, so I'll be talking about what the North Bay Forest Improvement Program is, who are the partners, what was the funding source, what's the intent, what's the timeline for a landowner who wants to get involved with the program, how to navigate the website, since that you'll need to work through the website, any helpful additional tools, who's eligible, resources, and then Q&A. So, oh, it won't let me advance. I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. Okay, hopefully that works. So who is part of the North Bay Forest Improvement Program? It is a program of After the Fire USA, which was formerly called Rebuild North Bay. And it's currently funded through CAL FIRE funding. It is, as it says, a North Bay program. So it's the 4 counties of the North Bay, which is Sonoma, Napa, Mendo, and Lake. And as you can see, there's the 3 RCDs in Mendo, Napa, and Sonoma. I'm sorry, the 4 RCDs, because there are 2 in Sonoma. And then Lake County is represented by Clear Lake Environmental Research Center. And it was initially a pilot program funded through Prop 68 with 1.5 million from the CAL FIRE Wildfire Resilience and Forestry Assistance Grant. That has been continued with funding, additional funding from CAL FIRE for the next 3 years, which we're super excited about. So what is it? It is a cutting edge and innovative incentives pilot program. So it serves mainly disadvantaged community members, but not exclusively. Those have a if you're a disadvantaged community member, you receive a incentive cost share of 80% of the determined cost of your activity. If you're not disadvantaged, then you will receive closer to 60% of the activity cost, which is pretty equivalent with cost rates for EQIP. So again, it provides financial cost share for landowners to conduct work to treat wildfire hazards or recover from wildfire in those 4 counties. And it also supports planning and implementation of projects on private forest lands. This in Sonoma County, the funding was really going towards implementation and not so much planning. So for example, what are these activities that the program funds? There's a wide variety, but for initial treatments, here's an example of what you could do for improving your timber stand. So we have, removing small stems is basically the first activity is basically thinning, removing stems under 4 inches diameter rest height, and you could receive $1,800 per acre for that activity. Let's see. Activity number 6, mastication of small brush or trees. That is an expensive activity you probably do with a masticator, and you could receive upwards of $2,700 per acre for that activity. Other examples are reforestation, light planting. I believe this is at a per seedling rate, not per acre. But so this probably looks a lot like EQIP's rate sheet, if you've seen that, if you're familiar with that. That's because the program was modeled a lot after EQIP and CFIP. And you can find detailed descriptions of each of these activities to help you decide which one is right for you. And there's more than just these 2, more than just stand improvement and reforestation, but I just wanted to give a quick example of what are the kind of activities out there. So if you're interested in accessing these funds, what's the timeline? Applications this round are due at the end of the month, but if you're not ready to apply this month, don't worry. We also will be repeating this in the spring. We do this every fall and spring, and those are, I believe, in April. But if you are able to get one in this fall, you'd submit by the end of the month, and then we would take a little over a month to review your application, and then decisions would be announced by the end of November. Landowners would be in contract by the beginning of the year, January 30, and then projects should start after the contracts are signed, and you have a year to complete your project. So how do you find all this information? It's all available on After the Fire's website. You can just go to afterthefireusa.org, type it in right now, and you'd look under their programs and find the Before the Fire Resilience Project, where the North Bay Forest Improvement Program is listed. So pretty easy. And then they have really great information there. So what is the program? Am I eligible? How do I apply, etc. So I'm going to skip this one for now. So eligibility. At the most basic level, a participant is eligible to participate if they meet these criteria. If the landowner or other applicant has the approval of the landowner to apply, the property is held in a trust. LLCs are also eligible applicants. The property is forest land containing any of the following vegetation types: oak woodland, redwood forest, mixed evergreen, or ponderosa. The property is at least 5 acres and less than 500 acres. The applicant has not already received funding through Prop 68. I believe this no longer applies since we have a new funding source. If you're unsure, I would just say to go ahead and apply anyhow. But let that be known if you have received funding through Prop 68 or CFIP since 2018. And you also would need to be able to afford the treatment after the incentive payment. So since they generally cover half the project, we would want to make sure that you can afford the other half of the cost of the project. And projects under the program are only eligible if they include one or more of the following activities. Preparation of a forest management plan. Like I said, that's not so much an activity for Sonoma. It's really more for the more disadvantaged communities of Lake and Mendocino. So sorry, that one doesn't apply to us exactly. But your project area that you want to implement for should be at least 1 acre in size. It should be should include restoration activities such as site prep, tree purchase and planting, tree shelters, or forest stand improvements such as shade field break, dead fir encroachment removal, thinning treatments, pruning. And it can also include follow-up hazard reduction activities such as mastication, chipping, or pile burning. And who is just generally a good fit for this program? The applicant should be, or if they're a good fit, they would be committed to the sustainable management of their forest land after the life of the grant. The applicant has already developed a forest management plan or other guiding document with a forester and has identified management units and plan treatments. Environmental review has been completed to satisfy the requirements of CEQA. However, if you're in one of those disadvantaged communities, it's a very small area in Sonoma County, but much larger in Lake and Mendocino, then you can qualify to have a forest plan developed through the program. But generally, we would like for you to have that plan already developed by the time you apply. And again, this is, ideally you'd be someone who is in one of these disadvantaged communities, but we can certainly serve you if you're outside of it. Also a good fit applicant would be someone who would not be able to do the treatments without the financial support of the incentives program, since the spirit of the program is really to make more work possible in places where it would otherwise not be. And this is just more about our goals for serving disadvantaged communities. And all this information is available on the website if you're curious to learn more. If you're interested in applying to the program for on-the-ground projects, you must have your forest management plan in place before applying. You can't really apply for the plan and the activities in one go. You need, if you want to apply for activities, then you have to have a plan completed. And we recommend that you hire a registered professional forester or work with one to prepare the management plan for your property. You can work with NRCS to apply for help with writing your forest management plan if you don't already have one, or CAL FIRE's CFIP, California Forest Improvement Program, may also be able to assist you with writing a forest management plan if you don't already have one. You can also prepare your own through, with assistance from University of California, ANR, the workshop series that I had mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. We have a really great frequently asked section, ask questions section on the website, which I will take you to now. Let me just pause this for a minute and pull that up. All right, can you all see my screen? Just give me a thumbs up if you can.
Yes.
Yes, good. Okay, great. So here is the here's the website, the North Bay Forest Improvement Program's homepage, and frequently asked questions. I'll just run over to this real quick and just show you that we have lots of information here. The purpose, how is it funded, what applicant is a good fit. We just went over all of that. What are incentive dollars? I'm just going to recap this. So incentive dollars are cash payments to forest landowners, and they are rates set specific to the treatment activities. The actual costs of the treatments are based on market research and may not match your contractor's estimate. So just keep that in mind. And for a participant to receive incentive dollars, they must first have their on the ground activities verified. So that means that you do not receive payment until after the activity has been completed. You will have to pay with your own money first and then get reimbursed afterwards. And then that continues on with some more information about what those incentive dollars are. Let's see, can I get reimbursed if I do the work myself? Yes, you can. The program will support forest landowners or managers during the work themselves. And the reimbursement is just based on the completed work. Does having an EQIP contract disqualify me? No, not exactly. If you have an EQIP contract, past or present, you will not be disqualified. You just need to provide that information when you apply. And you have to agree that if you want to participate in the program, you promise not to accept incentive dollars above the full cost of implementing the project. So you can't double up and take the extra. You have to be completely transparent about what you've taken from EQIP and what, how much you'll be taking from the NBFIP program. And in fact, if an applicant can treat additional acres by combining incentive dollars from multiple incentive programs, that applicant will earn a higher, more points on their application in the review process, because we really want to see that this program can help you do more than you would otherwise be able to do without it. So that's actually great to see if you're treating more acres. Does my project need environmental review permits? Yes, as we already said, these projects have to comply with CEQA, and you need to have done that review ahead of time. So there's more information about what that means here. And how long does it typically take to complete a project? Your project should be completed within 365 days, 1 year, after the contract has been made between all the parties. And after CEQA's notice of exemption, 30-day waiting period has lapsed without issue, if that's the document you're using to comply with CEQA. And just another important thing is that if you are concerned about filling this application out, there is a whole YouTube video that walks you through the process. You can either do this individually or with the help of your forester who helped you prepare your forest management plan. And I think the YouTube video gives a lot of information, answers a lot of questions that people might run into along the way. So just know that resource is there for you. So I believe that's the end of my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing and just open it up for any questions or comments. And I'll also throw in the URL to the website so that you guys have it right there. Okay. Has anyone worked through NBFIP before? Not yet. All right. Well, nice. You will have a chance to, if it feels like a good fit for you. We're really excited to bring more dollars into the county and support more people through this project. So yeah. Feel free to reach out to me or Jason if you have any questions. And again, like I said, if you're not ready to apply this fall, we'll be hosting or offering it again in the spring.
Adriana, what have been some of the biggest challenges for implementation of the funding?
I'm sorry?
What have been some of the bigger challenges for the distribution of funding by your staff or projects that have been cleared?
I can't speak to any of the challenges so far. I think really we've been spending a lot of money through this program, and it's just been, so far it's been working pretty well. In fact, I think a majority of the recipients of the funds for the 4 counties have been in Sonoma. So we've been dispersing a lot of funds, and yeah, I'm sure there have been a couple hiccups along the way, but I'm not privy to them.
Yeah, good, thanks.
Yeah. All right, thanks everyone for listening. Let's see, last things, just takeaways. Please sign up for Saturday's hike if you're free. And I'll be sending out some follow-up information about CalVTP and a couple, I still haven't posted the recording from August, so I'll be doing that along with some notes from August and from this meeting pretty soon. All right. If there's nothing else, I guess say have a good week. Good to see you guys.
Sounds good. Thanks, Adriana. Appreciate it. See you folks.
All right. Bye, everyone.